All right, guys, so here is where we are at this point. So our invaders are currently shooting their lasers at us, and we now are able to, let me click back on my simulator here. We can now fire our lasers back with a little built-in sound effect. So things are coming along nicely here. All right, so now the only thing we got to work on now is obviously what happens when a laser hits us or we hit one of them. Okay, so that's the next part of this thing here, and that'll pretty much finish this up. So let's get right to it. So let's go ahead and stop our simulators, get back into Xcode here, and let's go to work on that. So the first thing we're going to do is set up our collision categories. All right, so basically to detect when the nodes, and again, nodes are all the different things on the screen, are colliding, we're going to use Sprite Kit has a built-in physics engine, so it's pretty nice. So there's going to be some pre-existing methods and things that we can use. Just makes it a little easier there. Okay, so basically what we're going to be working with here is kind of a 13-bit integer is kind of the idea, which with 32 individual flags that we turned on or off. So basically what that means is we can have 32 categories for our game. All right, or 32 things kind of showing up on the screen here. Okay, so it shouldn't be a problem for this game. It won't be a problem, but just kind of that magic number is 32. Okay, so what we're going to do, so let's get started right away here. So we're going to add in our game scene.swift, we're going to add something called a struct. Okay, and we're going to do that right below our variable invader number. Okay, so to create a struct, we just have to type in the word struct, and then we're going to call this struct collision categories. All right, so these are going to be the categories of collisions that we can have. All right, and then we're just going to do a curly brace. So we're going to have, well, let's see, 4 different categories. So we're going to always start with static. Okay, and we're going to call it let invader. Okay, and that is, again, so that number 32 UI, I spelled that wrong, U int 32, and that'll complete for you. All right, equal to 0, x1. All right, and then again, let's just get this all in and then we'll talk through it here in a moment. Okay, so that's the first part, static let invader. Oh, and I just got to put a space right there. Okay, so as we're typing all this stuff in there, again, we just want to make sure we're putting the spaces where necessary. So same start, static let, now we'll do player. So we're going to create basically a constant for each of the classes that we made, essentially. 32, okay, and then this will be very similar. 0, 1. Now we're up to 1 here, so we started 0, 0. This is category 1. Static let, and then we'll go invader bullets. And 32 equals 0 times 1, and then this is category 2 or 3. Again, it's 3 because remember that we always start at 0, so 0, 1, 2. Then our last one is our player bullet. Oop, we don't want that one. Navigation controller. There we go. 32 and 0 times 1. And this would be 3 or the 4th there. Okay. So basically, we've created our categories for invader, player bullet, and player bullet. And we're using bit shifting to turn the bits on. So that's kind of what all this stuff is here. So we're working with our bits. So again, you can look more into that. You can, I'm kind of just keeping it, just simple here. We don't have to get too involved, but it's bit shifting. We're working with a 32-bit integer. That's what this means right here. Okay, with 32 individual flags that can be turned on. Okay, so then that's basically just going to be the stuff that's on the screen here. All right, so now let's start setting up the player and invader bullet collision. So the first one, we'll do the invader bullet collision. All right, so let's go ahead and let's go to invader bullet.swift. Okay, so why don't we do that first here. Invader bullet.swift is on the top for me there, so find your invader bullet class. Okay, so right now not too much in here, but we're going to add to this. So we're going to get our physics body going here. Okay, so we're going to go right below here. All right, so far this is just kind of our initializer. So we call the method here that we can pass in our variables. So let's get our physics body applied to our invader bullet. Okay, so first thing we're going to go self, dot physics. And you'll see it's something that's already going to come in from our sprite kit. Again, so beautiful. We can just hit enter. Then we'll go SK physics body. Once again, autocomplete that. And then it's going to be similar to what we've been doing. All right, we're going to use a texture and size component here. So we can go down to option 2. Okay, our texture is going to be self.texture. All right, and then our size is going to be self.size. Okay, so that's the first part here that we need to get in there. So just make sure we check your line of code there. Okay, next string of code here is going to be self.physicsBody again. Again, let that thing autocomplete with a question mark, dot dynamic, and that's a bool. We want that to be true. Okay, self.physics body once again with a question mark. Dot uses precise collision detection. We definitely want that. Okay, we want that to know exactly when the things collide here. Self.physics body. All right, and then point category bit mask. Okay, and that's going to equal to collision categories. There you go. We're going to let that autocomplete. And collision categories, I was pulling in from our struct that we made earlier. Okay, so that's where that's coming from. Dot invader bullet. Okay, so now we're kind of bringing we're bringing our category in here. This is the invader bullet category. So that's why we're bringing our category over from what we made in our previous file here. Okay. So then a couple more things here. Then what are we going to collide with? Self.physics body dot contact. Okay, so this is kind of what are we going with? So we're going to bring in our collision category struct, and then we're going to be colliding with the player. Okay, not player bullet, with our player. Okay, so the invader bullet will collide with the player is what we are talking about here. Okay, so that's the first. Oh, actually, then one more line of code here before we get going. Self.physics body. Okay, question mark, collision bit mask, 0 times 0. Okay, so basically, again, we're just setting up, when this thing is going to collide here, and what it's going to collide with. So again, invader bullet is again. So if we go back to game scene.swift, here's that struct that we made. Okay, so that's what we're referencing right here. Okay, so let's go back to our invader bullets. All right, so there we go. Okay, so collision categories dot invader bullet. Reason why we can get collision categories here is because in game scene, this is in that area of being a global property, so it can be accessed in any of our classes here. Okay, so if you're wondering that, there's your answer. Okay, so there is our invader bullet collision. So let's go ahead and do our player bullet. Okay, so this is going to be pretty similar. Okay, pretty similar in terms of the code that's going in here. But obviously, let's just go through and enter it in so we get used to it here, and let's avoid just copying and pasting right now. So we're going to go ahead and go to our init method right here. All right, so we're going to work with this top method here. All right, we're going to go right below our only line of code in there at the moment. Okay, and then let's bring it all in. So we're going to go self.physics body is equal to, sk physics body. So again, start like last time, texture and size. It's going to be self.texture. And it's going to be self.size. Okay, so we're just passing the parameters there. So now let's just bring in all the other properties. Self.physics body, question mark, dot dynamic. Yes, we want that to be true. All right, self.physics body. All right, and that's going to be uses precision. Again, as you can see, it gives you a little more a description right there if you're ever curious what you're putting in. As it says, it's going to determine whether the physics world uses a more precise collision. And yes, that's what we want. So we're going to set that always it's going to be true. Where are we at next here? We got self.physics body, question mark, dot category bit mask. All right, so now we're going to just set up our categories. So collision category. There we go. Collision categories dot player. All right, so this is the main one here. Okay, so we're working with our player, and then this is going to combine with the invader bullet. So we're just kind of reversing it from the other one. All right, and this one's going to be contact. All right, and again, this one defines what logical categories of bodies this body generates. So basically, all that fancy terms is we're determining what's it going to intersect with, collide with. That's going to be our collision players, our categories dot invader bullets. Okay, and we're also going to set up. We'll put in something a little different because it can collide with two things here. Collision categories dot invader. Okay, so that line there just gives us the ability to add another line of code here because it can collide. Basically, the player is going to be going not only with the invader bullet, but it's got to factor in the invader, so a little more there. And then the last couple lines are just similar from the other one. Physics body dot collision bit mask 0 times 0. And then we want to animate that. We're just going to call our animate function, which is down here. Okay, so that's the player one. All right, so go ahead and check that out here before we go forward. Make sure you got everything correctly in there with no errors, because obviously that would not work going forward. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up the invader for collision. All right, so now it's collision time here. Okay, so let's go to our invader.swift file. okay? And it's pretty similar to what we're going to do right now, okay? So we're going to set up our physics body. We're going to determine what the thing can collide with. So, very similar steps here, okay? So again, you're more than welcome to, move forward. I'll type this in here just so everyone can see this. But again, if you're comfortable with copying and pasting over, you can do that as well. But let's get to it. So we got to type in self.physicsBody is equal to SK physicsBody, okay? And then we got to look for our texture and size. So size.texture and size dot. Oh, excuse me. That's look at me messing up here. Self is what we're looking for there. And then this one is self.size because we're accessing the scene. Okay. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and turn on the dynamic aspect of it. So self.physicsBody.dynamic. We know that's going to be true. Okay, and then we want to turn on if we want this to have precise collision, self.physicsBody uses precise collision. That's going to be true again. Okay, then what are we colliding with? Who's colliding with what here? Self.physicsBody.category bit mask. Okay, and then so we're going collision categories. In this case, it's going to be invader. Okay, and then what is the invader going with? So we're looking at the player bullet and the player. So self.physicsBody !cat. Oh, this is going to be contact bit mask collision categories dot player bullet, and then just our separator collision categories dot player. Okay. And then wrap up this stuff here with our collision bit mask, self.physicsBody, and then let me put my question mark here. Oh, not that. There we go. Collision bit mask. Basically, this is just as it says, it's going to be the what collides with what here. Okay, what responds to collisions here. Okay, and then we're just going to set that so the whole screen will do that 0 by 0, and we are set. Okay, so now we got all of our collision set up there. Actually, you know what? We got one more. Okay, so now we're going to do the player bullet one. Okay, and then that will pretty much take us through all the collision stuff being set here. So last thing we need to do is let's go to player bullet. Okay, so pretty repetitive right now here. So what we'll do, just for the sake of time here, is let's go ahead and do a quick copy and paste here. Okay, and then we'll clean this up. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I'm going to go to player bullet, and then I'm going to go below my super init here, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. But we just need to come through and change a couple things. So basically, we need to just change this area down here. Okay, so top here. So since this is our player bullet, okay, we need to change invader bullet to player bullet, and then we need to change this to invader. Okay, because the player bullet is going after the invader. Okay, so that's just a simple way to do that. So now we are all set up with our collisions. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the video at this point here, just so we can, it's a little easier to move back and forth if you need to go back here, so it's not a long 20-minute one. So at this point, let's go ahead and I'll stop it, and then the next thing we're going to do is we'll start setting up the physics, all right, of this, so that way we can start seeing the collisions happening and just making the things disappear when they get hit by a laser. So thanks for watching.